Hi, everybody. Brenda here with the Indigo Doors. Welcome to this month's Healing on the First. And this is kind of a special edition because this is also week 5 of Love Yourself Boot Camp. So we're combining those for today. So each thing is going to get a little bit of special attention because obviously loving yourself has everything to do with healing, right? Everything to do with allowing yourself to expand into your magnificence. So if hopefully everybody can hear me. You can actually see me this month, so that's good. Okay, so week 5 of Love Yourself Bootcamp, again, has everything to do with healing, is called I Love and Approve of Myself. So I took that from Louise Hay, who advocates for saying that to yourself as much as possible. So I love and approve of myself. You're going to hear that a lot for the next 30 or so minutes. And to begin this conversation, I want to talk about a couple of mental health terms. And those are confidence, self-esteem, and resiliency. So that's a topic within a human being that's been studied over and over and over again, and I hope that we never stop talking about it. And it's fascinating because from a mental health perspective, they have looked at how there are those people who just naturally have that skill set. How do you have the confidence that you have? How do you bounce back from one challenge or one traumatic event so quickly? How do you not take things so personally, meaning that they don't hurt you as much as they do maybe someone else? So these are really important conversations because this is what healthy is, right? When you feel good about yourself, when you love and approve of yourself, when you have the confidence, when you do bounce back from things, you feel unstoppable. You're like, I'm going to go stand in front of a million people naked, right? You're willing to do those things. It's incredibly powerful. And a huge component of that I feel, and I hope that someday the research goes to, is that love of the self. That is an element of this. So really, like, I'm combining forces here, right? And part of confidence, self-esteem, and resiliency is knowing your value. Knowing what you bring and knowing that it has value. So the resiliency of like, oh my gosh, I just totally messed up. Isn't that hilarious? Or, oh my gosh, I just messed up and I'm going to bounce right back. So I'm going to get back in there. I just said the wrong words, or I just gave the wrong information, or I just fell on my face. Where we all have had experiences where that devastated us and maybe stopped us from moving forward. And stopped us from even moving forward from a mental space, right? Where we start beating ourselves up. That's the opposite of resiliency. And sometimes we need to show up, right? We need to show up for those parts of ourselves and love ourselves to shift into the resiliency part where you pick yourself back up and you're like, all right, I got this. So while the title of this week 5 is Love and Approve of Yourself, the topic of it is knowing your value. And knowing your value sounds like an intellectual discourse, and it is, of course. It's about all of the belief systems within you that recognize your value. Hey. And yet, you know where I'm going to go. We need to bring that to the emotional space. How does it feel when you know your value? It really is this feeling of not thinking from a negative perspective. So it's going to take practice, right? And knowing that whatever you do, it's going to be okay. And we know what that feels like because if we're by ourselves and we fall on our face, we might not think anything of it. It's really about the relationship that we have with others. Okay, so that's going to be the next topic. To know your value means that you know your value. And that you are the only ruler in this space. What do I mean by that? I mean letting go of people pleasing, shifting out of codependency, enabling, meaning that our worth, our value is only defined within us. And again, I love having these conversations, right? Because we don't always have this conversation. And without having the conversation, we go about our lives allowing others to define us. I'm going to say it like that, to define our value. Oh my gosh, they're mad at us. Oh my gosh, what if I did it wrong? What if I made that person mad? Does that mean that you have less value or you're not worthy? Now, most of us intellectually would say, well, no. And yet, isn't that how we behave sometimes? Isn't that how we feel about ourselves sometimes? That how we feel isn't even necessarily based about inside, it's about how the other person interpreted us. And that's why we're showing up in this way, right? Because it simply takes practice. It really is able to repair itself and heal. So awesome. And yet it's going to take that practice of what is your value? And you are the only one who gets to say. So, I like to give homework in the boot camp. And this isn't really homework, but it is an element of practicing saying, I am the only one who gets to say. I mean, that's really, we've talked a lot about showing up for yourself, a lot about noticing. And in noticing and showing up for yourself, what if you're the only one who gets to say? Because I'm going to tell you something, you are actually the only one who gets to say. So if you're in this dialogue or this story where you're trying to people please, or you're defining yourself emotionally, psychologically based on how others perceive you, you are saying, you are choosing that they have the say. And that really everyone has to be happy with you all the time. And that's not necessarily healthy, right? So pulling back through, talking about confidence, self-esteem, resiliency. What does that mean in knowing your value? So practicing noticing what you do well. This is where I'm going to get a little cheesy. And those of you who know me know that I love to be cheesy. Because it's time to start noticing all the things you do well. And it could be awkward at first if you haven't had some of these conversations with yourself. And it is recognizing, that you're loving really well, or you're doing the dishes really well. I know that sounds weird, but it's helpful. It begins this dialogue of looking at what you do well and knowing that everything you do well. And it feels good. Okay, I'm sure everyone has seen some of the studies on plants in these high schools. Like, I love these studies so much, where they take like the plants in like one section and they like say crappy things about the plants or to them about just anything. And then they have a whole nother set of plants with like, I love you plants, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing. And then the ones that they say nice things to like are thriving like it's a jungle. And then the other ones are like decrepit and like, this is what I'm talking about. It's time to show up for yourself in this way. Know your value and start saying those nice things to yourself. Because in saying those nice things to yourself, you will feel good. Because to be loving feels good. Knowing your value. This one is really simple, I think. And it is so flipping powerful to know your value. It really is that resiliency, that confidence, and that self-esteem. That mental health piece of those things. I'm going to look at my notes, so give me a second. I want to make sure that I've covered everything. One of the things I didn't address yet was that in mental health, we have a knowing that self-confidence, resiliency, and high self-esteem creates the healthiest environments for relationships, professionals, for individuals coping with whatever comes at them. So, I mean, like, just if you spend a second researching it, talking about confidence and health, I mean, it impacts everything so much. And everything has to do with knowing your value. Okay. Is there any question? I just want to make sure. I am really good at doing the dishes. Yes, you are. Okay. So now we're going to come into homework time. Okay. So homework is I love and approve of myself. I love and approve of myself. I love and approve of myself. Writing it down, saying it out loud, and feeling it. Of course, feeling it. Right? And I just want to sit in that. I love and approve of myself. And I'm going to share with you that when I started saying I love and approve of myself, I think I started saying it, hundreds of times a day. I knew that this wasn't something that I believed about myself. Hundreds of times a day. I had pages that I wrote out, I love and approve of myself. I love and approve of myself. And I would just say it. I would go for a walk and I would say, I love and approve of myself. And I'm going to be honest, it took me some minutes, probably a while, before I could feel it. Until I looked at myself in the mirror and I was saying it in the mirror. I said, I really love and approve of myself. Holy cow, this feels really good. Because if I can say I love and approve of myself and know it, I know that everyone else loves and approves of me too. And allowing yourself the practice for however long you need to show up for that. I love those words. Thank you, Louise Hay. They're just beautiful and perfect. And in talking about I love and approve of myself, we have to talk about judgments. And I know, I talk about it all the time. I do. Judgments, criticisms, comparisons, and competition. It is embedded absolutely everywhere. I don't even know. Like, some people argue that we're like hardwired. Like, we look at someone's like house and we go, oh, should we have our house like that too? Like, some people argue that. I'm not so sure, because I feel like with practice, we can release that. We can let that go. So we've got to talk about in knowing your value, there is absolutely no judgment. There can be discernment. We get to show up and notice that, like, I would do that different next time. Isn't that beautiful? I did a great job. I showed up and I noticed that I would do this differently. Or, I'm a little bit concerned that maybe I said something offensive. I'm going to check in with that person. I love and approve of myself and know that I'm allowed to make mistakes and say, hey, I just want to check in. I'm discerning. I'm not judging. I'm not criticizing myself, saying, oh my God, why did you say that? It's embedded. You've got to pull it through again. Okay, I love and approve of myself. I love and approve of myself. I love and approve of myself. Whether you love and approve of me really gets taken off the table for a minute. In fact, I would argue to take it off the table altogether. And I invite you to think about that and feel that. If I'm no longer giving permission for someone else to love and approve of me, what does that mean? Think about the freedom of that. If I say, listen, I love all of you. I do. I do. And none of you get to say what I'm worth. I love you so much. And you just don't get to say. I get to say. I decide my value. Feel that. I love and approve of myself. All of you who know me know that I have a little bit of a hard time because we're talking, right? And I'm talking at you. And I do have a hard time with that a little bit, because you got this. Within you. And I still want to share what I think and what I feel with you. And thank you for that. It's an experience, though. It's not just our mental space. We must spend the time identifying all of the nuances of our being and meeting up with them, right? That's why we're showing up in this way. Okay, so number 2. 10 to 15 minutes a day, spending time talking about all the things that you're doing right. And again, I'm going to confess that there are days that are doozies and they're challenging, and I literally am going for a walk and all I can come up with is, Brenda, you're walking down the sidewalk really good. And it usually makes me laugh, because I'm like, really? That's all you got right now? And it's true. That's where I'm at, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm doing a really good job moving my legs right now. Maybe I'm just sitting around, staring out the window, looking at the trees. I'm like, you're doing a really good job of just being present, Brenda. Right? Wherever you are at, I know it sounds kind of silly. These conversations begin to shift us into a different way of being where you're defining you and expanding into all of your gloriousness. And in spending 10 to 15 minutes talking about all the things that you're doing right, it does mean that there are some conversations, and I love this part, that you get to say no to. Okay, so for example, when I'm doing things like this, I am not allowed to talk about anything that I did wrong or anything that I didn't do right. Notice how I framed that? That was the same thing, but I framed it a little differently because that's how we do it. You might sneak it in there. Well, maybe this wasn't, and I'm like, nope, it's okay. And feel that. Really think about that. We are constantly talking about our value. Whether you're aware of it or not, we are constantly thinking. We are thinking beings. How often are we practicing not thinking? Because that takes practice. So when we're driving in our car, when we're at the grocery store, when we're going about our chores, what are you saying to yourself? And I'm saying, how about you say all the things you're doing right? One of the ways I like to have this conversations, or one of the ways I reconcile it within myself, is I think about how I feel about young kids. Because for me, like, I see them and I am just like, oh my God, they are just so beautiful. They are just so perfect. I mean, I'm just in like awe. And I've taken that belief and that knowing of them. Okay. And I want you to think about that. When they are like just beautifully like looking at the world and they're in wonder of it. Or if they're in a temper tantrum and they're so mad because they can't have a sucker. And you're just like, this is amazing. And they're just themselves, so beautiful. I naturally will not judge them and be like, oh my God, why are you upset right now? I'm like, oh, you must be so tired. Like, I just have so much love and so much compassion. So how about we see everyone like that? How about I see myself like that? Brenda, you're doing such a great job showing up. This is really not easy right now. I love you so much. You're doing such a great job. You know how good that feels to have those words said to me instead of maybe some of those judgments I'm always talking about? Oh my God, I feel so bad. This is so bad. I don't like it. Bro, it's okay not to like it. So that wasn't good that I said that. We're allowed not to like. That's okay. It's just the judgment of it, though. You understand what I'm saying? Can you see yourself like this young, beautiful, perfect person? Like a child that is figuring it out, because that is how lovely you are. I don't understand how we forget that, how we talk ourselves out of that story. And I know not every young person has that experience where they're treated so safely, so lovingly. And that's okay. We get to now practice and give that to ourselves. So it doesn't mean that you might not meet up with a part of you that is traumatized or is wounded. So you show up with that same knowing your value. Knowing that you love and approve of yourself. I can tell that some of you got that. That's so beautiful. I love it so much. It changes absolutely everything. You get to show up and be real and be messy, because that's how safe and loved you are. And this, I feel, again, I know I've said this like at different monthly healings on the first. It's just, we have to start here. We have to show up for ourselves. We have to heal and repair. And then we're going to have a different conversation, because then watch what we can do when we remember and integrate all the love of this universe. We are already unstoppable. We are already unconditionally loved. Now let's experience it and be it. Let's back it up. And that's this practice. And we got this. We're in this together. We love this shit out of each other. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. We do, though. And it begins because we can give it to ourselves. Okay, so I haven't done this yet for the boot camp, but because this is the healing on the first, see, combining, so fun, we're going to be able to do an experience with it. Okay, so because I want to invite all of us to have this experience together. It makes it so much more powerful. Okay, so let's sit back and relax. I'm going to close my eyes, okay, because we're going to go within and we're going to share in these beautiful, loving energies together. Okay, so for just a couple of moments together, let's just close our eyes and let's just notice our breath. And in noticing our breath, we let go. We allow ourselves to surrender to this very experience, this very moment for just a couple of moments. So just breathe. Notice your body. Notice any tension. And just relax. Allow yourself to melt wherever you're sitting or laying or being. Just breathe. And if you can, maybe you can slow down your breath a little bit and you can breathe a little bit deeper. Inhale for as long as you can. Exhale just as slowly. Just allowing yourself to completely let go and be present. And if you're willing, I invite you to take your hand and put it on your heart. So that's what this is all about. Remembering how powerful you really are. And that you are allowed to choose health and love and power. And breathe. Slowing down our nervous system. And with your hand on your heart, I invite you to imagine that you are anywhere on this beautiful earth. So I want you to find or pick your favorite spot, whether it's on a sandy beach or in the middle of a beautiful forest, a meadow, a lake, wherever you choose to be. And I invite you to notice your surroundings. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you hear? What do you smell? And wherever you've picked, I invite you to just find a seat. Find a spot that's comfortable, that feels safe and cozy. And again, notice, what do you see around you? What do you feel? Just let go. Whatever other thoughts arise, allow them to arise and simply let them go. It's okay, this takes practice. As you're sitting in your beautiful spot, I invite you to tell your body that you love your body. You just get to feel this and think this within yourself. I love you, body. I love you, body. I love you, body. And from here, I invite you to say and feel and think within yourself. Again, you don't have to say the words out loud, but you can if you choose. I love and approve of myself. Again, you're in your favorite spot. You feel the breeze. You notice the air, the sky, and feel and think, I love and approve of myself. Just say, I love you so much, self. Say your name within yourself. I love you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here and showing up in this way for yourself. I love you so much. I love and approve of myself. I love and approve of myself. Very nice. And here I invite you to let go of any resistance that has arisen within you. And that can be a feeling within your body. You might have noticed tension. So if you can use your imagination and imagine that you're taking that tension out of your body, you're pulling it out, and you're letting it go into the earth wherever you are. Just noticing the feeling within your being that was a little bit resistance to this loving and approving of yourself, just letting it go. This is how powerful we are. We are making a decision to release that no longer serves you. And on that same note, I invite you to let go of any belief system. So using your imagination, imagining yourself taking out the belief systems within your being that exist. They might be, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm not enough of that, I need more of that. Please, let them go. They're not real. Any fears within you, any unworthiness that exists, imagine yourself in whatever way it comes to you, taking out of your body and throwing it into the earth, or the water if you're near water, or the trees if you're near trees. Wherever you see that in your being, maybe it comes out on its own, or you imagine using your hands, and say, I release you with love. I no longer choose you. I am willing to change. I am changing. I release the need for this discomfort, for this resistance. And while you've been busy letting go of that no longer serves you, letting go of any unloving belief systems, a line of people have gathered to meet you. You might see these as guides and angels, as family that just wants to come forward. And they each have a gift for you. They have love for you. And they wish to give you these gifts. So when you're ready, when you let go of the things that you wish to let go of, I invite you to look up and notice who's gathered. And imagine yourself reaching out your hands and accepting the gifts that are being given. And allow yourself to accept them within every fiber of your being, saying, yes, I am willing to receive these gifts. I am willing to remember who I really am. I am willing to love myself unconditionally. So beautiful. And once you've received your gifts, those that have gathered to be around you and love you, just sit down to be in this circle within you and around you, to be a part of your gloriousness. And when you're ready, wherever you're sitting, I invite you to imagine yourself laying down on the earth. And as you lay down, the earth creates a blanket around your being to just hold you, protect you, to give you even more love. She envelops your being, your body, and all of your parts. And you feel that love coming from the earth. You open yourself to receive even more. And now breathe. Allow yourself to breathe and receive. And here I invite you to imagine all of the things that you are grateful for in this world. All of the people, all of the family, your homes even, whatever comes to mind, your beautiful jobs, the beautiful cities that you live in, the beautiful people that you get to meet every day. I invite you to imagine them and thank them. We are collectively together being grateful for each other and ourselves. So if you hadn't, I invite you to notice that you hadn't put yourself into that gratitude circle. Bring yourself to that circle now. And be grateful for you. Be grateful for all that you do. Just as grateful as you are for everything else on this planet. And let's just surround everything that we can think of with love. And breathe. Let's take a couple more deep breaths. Just allowing yourself to be at peace. Feel the joy and the love of this moment. When you're ready, come back to this beautiful screen. Open your eyes. There's so much more that we can share in those experiences than we could ever share talking to each other, talking at each other. There is so much more information in all of that, and I want to thank all of you for being here, and those of you who will watch this in the future. We can feel each other. We are aware that we are all together, loving each other, loving ourselves. And I honor you with all of my being. You are amazing in absolutely every way. I love you. I'll see you next time.